All right, so recently, obviously, we've been getting lots of news from the presidency. I guess everybody's trying to redeem their image, but that's my own personal opinion. But this scheme is supposed to be helping the medium, small-scale businesses, and it'll be interesting to see how far, because, and it's not like just lip service. You know, sometimes something that's written in paper, we don't know how it's going to be implemented, and how people will be affected by it.
So it's targeting about 1.7 million Nigerian businesses, and 75 billion is what they hope, you know, they can help with these different businesses. And just as you said, we have heard about schemes and funds like this, where, you know, the person in charge would say to you, we have done this, we have sent this amount, we have met these people, these are the people who have applied for this, this was what was given to us, and all that money is finished, or the fund is, you know, exhausted because we have reached everyone. Then you ask the people who are meant to have received, and they say, silence,
see anything.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. So I really, once our guest comes on, is what are they doing differently from all the other stories we hear every time with the other funds and schemes? Who is the middleman? Is there a middleman? Is there a direct connection between this fund and those in charge of the fund and the people who are supposed to be the beneficiaries of this fund?
Yeah, so I hear that registration will be starting for it soon, and they're trying to
September.
Yes, so but they want to phase it, so they are handling the educational sector first before the other sectors, and I'm happy. This is a very laudable initiative. I'm just not so optimistic about it, but if they say, I want to take the government's word for it, that they've earmarked 75 billion and they are going to be giving it to businesses to ensure that people don't lose their jobs, salaries are paid. I want to know the procedures. I want to know how they get the beneficiaries of this. And I want to see that the people who get it actually come out to say, we got it, or thank you, you know. That
and, you know, and because of COVID-19, the fact that the hoodlums that attack many businesses has caused many people to lose so much. So these will definitely go a long way. And I think from the 75 billion you're talking about, it was about 4 or 3 states, Lagos is inclusive, of states that these really happened, and they wanted to help business owners to get back on their feet. So I'm told that we have our guest now, Tola Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Are you there? Hello, Tola. Are you there?
Hello.
Good morning, Tola. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
So we had introduced you earlier because we wanted you to talk to us about the survival fund scheme by the federal government to help resuscitate and to provide for the micro, small, medium enterprises. Could you tell us about this scheme, please?
Well, the line is a bit faint, but I believe I got to talk about the survival fund scheme.
Yes.
Okay. So the survival fund scheme, like you have stressed earlier on, is one of the components of the approvals that Mr. President gave in July to cushion the effects of COVID-19 that on businesses and individuals in the country. And it has 4 aspects. The payroll support that's supposed to help pay salaries of staff of businesses for about 3 months. It has the MSME, Artisan, and transport grants, where they're supposed to collect 30,000 naira. It has the MSME grant, which is just a 50,000 naira one-off grant to micro businesses. It has the CAC formalization support, which is supposed to register 250,000 businesses across the country, business names across the country. Lastly, it has the guaranteed uptake scheme, which is the scheme that injects funds into production line businesses across the country, and government guarantees buying those products of them, products like face masks, hand sanitizers, and processed food, and government then distributes those products to those in need of the produced products. So those are the 4 different schemes under the survival fund.
Now,
okay, of those who are meant to take advantage of these funds and this scheme, is there a process to find out who is eligible, and what does it entail? Oh yes,
we have a website, www.survivalfund.gov.ng, where we have information, and we have states state partnership, all the states, well, apart from a few, I think 1 or 2, they have not given us state focal persons where they learn with us to understand what the schemes are about. They go back to their states to tell them these are what the schemes are about, these are how you assess the scheme, and these are what you need to do to ensure that you very quickly meet up the requirements. So that's as far as partnership is concerned.
Right.
All right. You know, sometimes when we have all of these projects, what happens at the end of the day is that the powers that be find a way of, you know, giving the slots to their relatives and their people, their friends, and it doesn't get to the people who really need it. So I'm going to be asking you, what measures are you putting in place to ensure that people who need it get it? And is there any way that their names can be published for those that are going to benefit from this?
Okay, so we understand that this has been a norm in the past, and it's one of the things that we're trying to ensure that it's not repeated. Basically, in short, one of the mandates we were giving that the steering committee led by the Honorable Minister of State, Ambassador Mariam Katazim, was that we should ensure that this goes to those that they are meant for. So what we have done is that we've tried to ensure that every scheme there's a business, and at no point do we have an anchor that will pay money to that pays money to another person. So if we ensure that if we are paying you 30,000 naira and it goes to you, anybody that any so-called big man or relative that want to gather, how many 30,000 naira do you want to gather before it makes that want to gather a lot of 30,000 naira in different places, and now start giving people less than how much we have approved. So we'll ensure that we are not doing that. There's no anchor. The only anchor is that you anchor by bringing them to us. You are going to aggregate. You bring the people to us. Once we get the people that we need, we collect their account details and pay directly to them, basically. So at no point are we paying someone to pay another person or pushing funds into somebody's account or a group of people's accounts to now go and pay other people. No, we are paying directly to the people. All the schemes, all. No one is no exemption. Especially even the payroll support.
Okay. Right. So when you say micro, small, some Nigerians have no idea what you mean. Could you give us examples of what micro, small enterprises mean and who falls into this bracket?
Okay. So micro, small enterprise, micro, small, and medium enterprises. That's the entire value chain. Now, if you look at let's go by our own definition of micro, small, and medium enterprises. And we have to, I must make reference to the last survey done by Smedan and NBC. It is claimed that we have 41.5 million MSMEs in the country, which 41.5 million existing businesses in the country. And out of these 41.5 million, about between 95 to 98% of them are micro. So they said about 41 million are micro. So it means that virtually almost 8 in every 10 businesses you see in Nigeria, or 9 in every 10 businesses in Nigeria are micro. That's very, very small. Very, 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 very small. So, and this is our target. Basically, the enterprises, and those are the large businesses, the Alicos and the rest of them, those are the large enterprises. So the micro businesses are the ones that employ 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, even to 50 staff, basically, and make less than, say, 10 million in some cases per annum, in some cases slightly above 10 million. These are the ones that are struggling. These are the ones that will struggle when there's a little glitch to whatever they are used to doing daily. So these are the ones that, and they are more. They are more because they are the ones that, if anything affects their daily income, they might not, they are not in a position where they cannot pay their staff. So these are the ones that we are focusing on.
Okay, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guest special advisor to the federal government on MSMEs.
Yes.
Ma'am had a question. Go ahead, please.
So my question is, earlier you were talking about the sort of businesses that would fall under a micro and medium, and you said something about 10 million, those businesses that make between or less than 10 million per annum. Is that for the micro businesses, enterprises, or are you talking of the medium and small enterprises?
Most businesses that make less than such amounts fall under the micro businesses.
Micro?
Yes, most businesses fall under, most of such businesses fall under the micro businesses.
Oh, okay.
So these are the people that employ between 1 to 10 staff, basically. 1 to 10 staff. And then in some very, very, very rare cases, in some very, very rare cases, employ above that. Now, we have the small businesses. These ones, you could have them employing up to about 50 staff, basically, about 50 staff. But the amount of transactions or the amount of transactions that they do in a year is quite minimal. So if you are looking at their staff strength, it does not equate, the staff strength does not necessarily equate a very large. If somebody has 50 staff, you will be thinking that, oh, they should be doing about 100 million, 200 million, 300 million. Right. They might not necessarily be doing that.
All right, Tola, let me be sure I get you right, because you said earlier that part of the grants we're talking about is about 30,000 naira on businesses. How much are we talking about? Because for somebody who has a 10-man staff, 30,000 naira ain't going to do much. So what exactly is this grant? What's the value of the grant?
Okay. Now, there are 4 different sources of grants. There's a grant that can help you support your payroll for 3 months. It can support as many as 10 of your staff.
Okay.
If you are paying them above 50,000 a month, it can support as many as 10 of your staff. An individual company, 10 staff. Imagine 10 staff, an individual company, that's about 500,000 every month for 3 months. And in some cases, if you pay them less than 500,000, if you pay them less than
it's clearer now. Thank you.
We get it.
It's clearer now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's also...
And it could be lesser. It could also be lesser.
Okay.
There's also the grants, or is it like a one-off you talked about giving to artisans? Or
Yes.
how do they qualify for it?
Okay, so that has started. What we did was that started last week. They started disbursements last week for about 11 states.
Okay.
And I believe Lagos is one of those states that have been paid as well. Now, how do you qualify for that? It's for you to belong to an association. If you belong to an association, most of our petty people that have handwork, plumber, carpenter, mechanic, and all the likes. If you most of them belong to different associations. If you belong to an association, then we're able to prove that you give us your association number, and you give us your BVN, and we simply credit you this money once we do our verification.
Okay, I have to run off, Tola, but there's something I think is important for us to ask. Many times when federal government or the presidency comes with these nice schemes and throw money at Nigerians, usually it's not used for what it's supposed to be used for. And then it's almost like a waste. We just wasted money. I mean, there were so many schemes in the past that we've seen. How are you ensuring that these people that are beneficiaries of this scheme actually use it for the right reason? And how do you measure that indeed it was used for the right reasons?
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons, apart from a few other reasons, why we say let's use their associations.
Okay.
I think what we say to the associations are, give us a list of your most prominent and active members who you know that when we give these funds to, you can monitor what they will use it for. Those that have been hardworking in the past, but are now facing heavy financial burden because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And they populate that list and bring to us. The truth is that yesterday I was in Abuja, and we went to one of the clusters that they had paid. And a few people were giving testimonials. And one of it was rather emotional, because this lady got up and said, "Thank you, federal government, for this. I've collected my 30,000 and I've been able to restock my business." So when she said I've been able to restock my business, in my mind I'm thinking, what do you mean by restock with 30,000 naira? And she said to me, "Sir, I bought this equipment, I bought this tool, I bought this tool. I bought about 3 tools that cost me about 22,000 naira, and I still have 8,000 naira left." Honestly, that got to me. I mean, we are here thinking that 30,000 naira might not be a lot, but here is somebody that is saying that she had bought 3 tools that she will use
With
for
that amount.
handwork, and she still had 8,000 naira left. Basically.
Thank you very much, Tola. We have to want to throw something in.
Yes, so concerning those clusters and those who are meant to pass on the information to you, how do you keep them accountable? Because, you know, that could also be an environment, an opportunity. I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, an opportunity for something to go wrong where monies would not reach who they're meant for.
Okay, so the essence of going to the to those, where we very soon across the country, you still start seeing testimonial and activation grounds where we are going, like myself, maybe the Honorable Minister of State, and a few other, and the DG Smeda, who is the chairman of the subcommittee on media,
right,
and other people. We are going around asking, yes, you got the money. It is one thing for them to get the money,
right.
but we are more interested in, did you get what you were supposed to get?
Right.
How much did you get?
All right,
did you promise
unfortunately, we have
anything?
to wrap up at this point. Thank you very much, Tola Johnson, for joining us this morning. He's a special advisor to the presidency on MSMEs. That's all we can take on the show today. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.